What if there was no water for 30 days? Think about waking up tomorrow morning and turning on your faucet, but nothing happens. No water comes out. At first, you think it is just a normal problem. Maybe the pipes are damaged. Maybe the city is repairing something. Maybe the water will return in a few hours. You continue with your morning routine, believing everything will go back to normal. But then 1 hour becomes 5 hours. 5 hours become 1 day. And suddenly, you receive a message that changes everything. There is no water supply. Not today. Not tomorrow. Not for the next 30 days. A complete global water failure has begun. At first, many people would not understand how serious this situation is. Human beings have built a civilization around the assumption that water will always be available. We wake up, drink water, wash our faces, cook food, clean our homes, produce electricity, grow crops, manufacture products, and maintain our health using water. Water is so common in everyday life that most people only notice its importance when it disappears. But what would happen if every river, every pipe system, every water tank, and every source of clean water suddenly became unavailable for an entire month? How would humans survive? How long could society continue? And what would happen to our bodies when the most important resource on Earth slowly disappears? The answer reveals just how fragile human civilization really is. The first hours would be filled with confusion. In modern cities, billions of people depend completely on organized water systems. A person living in a large city does not usually collect water from rivers or wells. They simply open a tap and expect clean water to appear. This simple action represents one of humanity's greatest achievements. But if the system fails, millions of people would immediately face a problem they have never experienced before: finding water. During the first day, many people would begin searching for bottled water in stores. Supermarkets would quickly become crowded. People would buy everything they could find: bottled water, drinks, juices, and any liquid that could help them survive. This has happened before in smaller disasters. After hurricanes, earthquakes, and major storms, communities often rush to collect water because people understand that survival depends on it. For example, after natural disasters such as hurricanes in different parts of the world, one of the first emergency supplies organizations provide is clean drinking water. Food is important. Shelter is important. But without water, survival becomes impossible. During the first few days, many people would still believe they could manage. They would drink less. They would save every drop. They would stop taking long showers. They would avoid wasting water while cooking. Families would create plans. They would store water in containers. They would search for hidden sources. Some would collect rainwater if the weather allowed it. Others would attempt to purify water from lakes, rivers, or underground sources. Human beings have always adapted during difficult situations. Throughout history, people living in deserts and dry regions have developed incredible methods to survive with limited water. Communities in places like the Sahara Desert, the Middle East, and parts of Australia have learned how to collect, preserve, and carefully manage every drop. But the difference is that these communities prepared for water scarcity. A modern city without water for 30 days would not be prepared. The first major crisis would not only be thirst, it would be sanitation. Many people forget that water is not only used for drinking, it is what keeps our environments clean. Without water, toilets would stop working properly. Sewage systems would begin to fail. Hospitals would struggle. Factories would shut down. Restaurants would close. Schools would become impossible to operate. The disappearance of water would affect almost every part of life. By the third day, the situation would become much more serious. The human body is made mostly of water. Every cell, every organ, and every biological process depends on it. Water helps regulate body temperature. It transports nutrients. It removes waste. It allows the brain and muscles to function properly. When the body loses more water than it replaces, dehydration begins. At first, the symptoms seem small: a dry mouth, extreme thirst, tiredness, headaches, difficulty concentrating. But dehydration is not simply feeling thirsty. It is the body slowly losing the ability to function. A person can survive much longer without food than without water. Without food, the body can use stored energy. But without water, the body begins failing quickly. After several days without enough water, the situation becomes dangerous. The blood becomes thicker. The heart works harder. The kidneys struggle to remove waste. The body temperature becomes harder to control. The brain begins to suffer. people become confused and weak. Their decisions become worse. And this creates another danger. A dehydrated person is not only physically weak, they are mentally affected. Imagine millions of people becoming desperate while their ability to think clearly begins disappearing. That is when societies face their greatest challenge, not just a lack of resources, but human desperation. As the days continue, the world would begin changing. The streets of major cities would look different. Normally crowded places would become silent. Businesses would close. Public transportation would slow down. Workers would stop coming because survival would become the priority. People would no longer worry about entertainment, luxury, or convenience. Their entire existence would focus on one question: where can I find water? In rural areas, the situation would also become devastating. Farmers would face one of the biggest disasters imaginable. Agriculture depends heavily on water. Crops need water to grow. Animals need water to survive. Without enough water, farms would begin collapsing. A farmer could lose an entire season of work within weeks. Animals would become weak, food production would decrease, and this would create another crisis. A world without water would eventually become a world without enough food. This is why water shortages are among the biggest threats facing humanity. Water does not only keep people alive directly, it supports the entire system that feeds the planet. By the second week, survival would become much harder. The easy sources of water would already be gone. Stores would be empty. Emergency supplies would be limited. Governments would attempt to control distribution. Military and humanitarian organizations might be involved in transporting water to important areas, but the demand would be enormous. The world uses billions of liters of water every single day. Replacing that amount would be almost impossible. People would begin searching for alternative solutions. Some would collect moisture from the environment. Some would attempt to filter dirty water. Some would use traditional survival techniques passed down through generations. In extreme situations, humans have shown incredible creativity. There are examples of people surviving in deserts, oceans, and disaster zones by using limited resources. Explorers lost in dry environments have survived by collecting small amounts of water wherever possible. Communities affected by drought have created systems to store and recycle water. Human survival instinct is powerful. But even the strongest survival skills have limits, because the problem would not be one person losing access to water. It would be billions of people at the same time. A 30-day water disappearance would not only test individuals, it would test civilization itself. And the most terrifying part is that the worst consequences would not happen immediately. The first days would be about searching. The second week would be about struggling. But as the final weeks approached, the world would begin entering a completely different stage. Hospitals would face impossible choices. Animals would disappear from many areas. Cities would become dangerous. Conflicts over remaining water sources would increase. And human survival would depend on one thing that people once considered ordinary: a single drop of water. Because when water disappears, everything built around it begins to collapse. The question is not only whether humans could survive 30 days without water. The deeper question is this: what kind of world would remain after those 30 days? And what would humanity become when the resource that created civilization becomes the thing we fight hardest to find? As the world enters the third week without water, humanity would reach a point where survival is no longer about comfort. It would become a battle between life and death. The things people once considered normal would become precious. A glass of clean water would become more valuable than money. A working water source would become more important than technology, luxury, or power. The modern world would begin discovering a painful truth. Human civilization is not built on machines, buildings, or economic systems. It is built on resources. And among all resources, water is the foundation of everything. During the third week, the psychological effects would become just as dangerous as the physical effects. People would experience extreme stress, fear, and uncertainty. For generations, humans have lived with the belief that tomorrow will bring another normal day. But in a world without water, tomorrow would become unpredictable. Families would begin making impossible decisions. Parents would sacrifice their own water so their children could survive. Communities would have to decide how limited supplies should be shared. Hospitals would face heartbreaking situations where doctors would have fewer resources to help patients. Medical care depends heavily on water. Hospitals require water for cleaning equipment, maintaining hygiene, preparing medicines, treating wounds, and protecting patients from infections. Without water, even simple medical procedures could become extremely dangerous. A small injury that would normally heal could become life-threatening. A common infection could become deadly. Doctors and nurses would be fighting a battle against problems they normally know how to control. The collapse would not happen because humans suddenly lose intelligence. It would happen because the systems that protect human life would no longer have the resources they need. Meanwhile, cities would begin changing dramatically. Modern cities are designed around constant water availability. Apartment buildings, office towers, shopping centers, and public spaces all depend on water systems. Without water, these places would slowly become impossible to maintain. Bathrooms would stop functioning. Garbage would increase. Diseases would spread more easily. The smell of cities would change. Places that once represented human achievement would begin showing signs of a civilization under pressure. People would leave crowded urban areas, searching for places where water might still exist. This movement would create another challenge. Large groups of people traveling without enough supplies would put even more pressure on remaining resources. History has shown that when essential resources become scarce, migration increases. People move toward areas where they believe they can find safety, food, and water. But in a global water crisis, there would be no easy destination. Every region would be struggling. Every community would be protecting what little it had left. In rural areas, the situation would become equally devastating. Farmers would watch their fields die. Plants that once provided food would dry out. Animals would become weaker every day. Livestock would begin dying because they cannot survive without water. This would create a chain reaction. Less water means fewer crops. Fewer crops mean less food. Less food means hunger. Hunger combined with dehydration would create one of the greatest humanitarian disasters in human history. People often imagine survival situations as individual battles, a person alone in the wilderness trying to stay alive. But a 30-day global water crisis would be different. It would be billions of people trying to survive at the same time. The competition for resources would become intense. Some communities would cooperate, neighbors would share supplies, people would create survival networks. Scientists, engineers, and local experts would search for solutions. Human history has many examples of cooperation during disasters. When faced with extreme challenges, humans often show incredible kindness and creativity. People have rebuilt cities after wars. They have survived earthquakes, floods, and pandemics. They have created solutions when situations appeared impossible. But cooperation would have limits, because nature does not negotiate. A human being can survive without many things. A person can survive without electricity. A person can survive without technology. A person can survive without modern entertainment. But a person cannot survive indefinitely without water. As the fourth week arrives, the human body would begin showing the full consequences of prolonged water shortage. People who managed to survive would be physically weakened. Many would suffer from severe dehydration. Their organs would struggle. Their bodies would have difficulty controlling temperature. Their energy levels would be extremely low. Simple movements would become exhausting. Walking, working, and even thinking would become difficult. The human body is designed to protect itself. When water becomes unavailable, the body begins making sacrifices. It reduces unnecessary functions. It tries to preserve what is most important. But eventually, there is nothing left to protect. The kidneys begin failing. The heart becomes stressed. The brain becomes affected. Without intervention, death becomes unavoidable. The elderly, young children, and people with health problems would be among the most vulnerable. Children lose water faster than adults because of their smaller bodies. Older adults often have a reduced ability to respond to dehydration. This means the crisis would not affect everyone equally. The weakest members of society would suffer first. By the final days of the 30-day period, the world would look completely different. The global economy would be almost frozen. Many industries would stop operating. Factories require water for manufacturing, cooling systems, and cleaning. Energy production would be affected because many power plants depend on water. Transportation systems would struggle. International trade would slow down. Governments would focus almost entirely on emergency survival operations. The priorities of humanity would completely change. A country's strength would no longer be measured only by money or technology. It would be measured by one question: how much water remains? Countries with natural water reserves would become extremely important. Regions with underground water sources, lakes, or effective conservation systems would have a better chance of survival. But even these places would face enormous pressure. Because water is connected to everything, a shortage in one place would affect another. The world is connected through food systems, trade, and human movement. A water crisis anywhere can become a crisis everywhere. This is why scientists and environmental experts have warned for years about protecting global water resources. The scenario of having absolutely no water for 30 days is extreme, but it teaches an important lesson. Water shortages are already affecting millions of people around the world. Many communities today experience difficult access to clean water. Some people walk kilometers every day to collect water. Some families survive with only a small amount of water that must be carefully divided between drinking, cooking, and cleaning. These real-life struggles show that the future of water is not only a fictional story. For many people, water scarcity is already a reality. The difference between those situations and a total global disappearance is scale. A world without water for 30 days would reveal something humanity often forgets. The things we consider guaranteed are actually fragile. Every time we turn on a faucet, we are experiencing a system built through generations of engineering, science, and cooperation. Every drop represents a complicated journey. Water travels through nature, underground systems, rivers, treatment plants, and distribution networks before reaching our homes. It is easy to waste something when we believe it will always exist. But if humanity experienced 30 days without water, the way people think about water would change forever. People would no longer see water as something ordinary. They would see it as the foundation of life itself. After 30 days, if water suddenly returned, the world would not immediately return to normal. The damage would already be enormous. Millions of people would have suffered. Food systems would need years to recover. Animals and ecosystems would need time to rebuild. Economies would require massive reconstruction. But humanity would also learn one of the greatest lessons possible. Survival depends on preparation. The future of civilization depends on protecting the resources that keep us alive. Because the next great challenge facing humanity may not come from a lack of intelligence. It may not come from a lack of technology. It may come from forgetting the value of the simplest thing on Earth, water. The same substance that fills oceans. The same substance that creates forests. The same substance that allows every human heartbeat to continue. A world without water for 30 days would not just be a disaster. It would be a reminder. A reminder that every civilization, every city, and every human life depends on something we often ignore: a single drop. Because without water, there is no agriculture. Without agriculture, there is no food. Without food, there is no society. And without water, there is no future. So the next time you drink a glass of water, remember what it truly represents. It is not just a liquid. It is survival. It is history. It is life itself. And protecting it may be one of the most important responsibilities humanity will ever have.